A New York judge has upheld a publishing ban on the New York Times, siding with the far-right group Project Veritas in their ongoing legal battle with the legacy newspaper. Project Veritas has accused the Times of libel for its reporting on their founder, James O'Keefe. Judge Charles Wood's ruling orders the Times to turn over or destroy any copies of documents they obtained from an attorney for Project Veritas.
Publisher of the Times, A.G. Sulzberger, responded to the ruling writing, quote, "This ruling should raise alarms not just for advocates of press freedoms, but for anyone concerned about the dangers of government overreach into what the public can and cannot know."
So this one is there's a lot going on here. So the Project Veritas's claim is that they have this ongoing litigation with the New York Times, and the New York Times is trying to publish internal memo correspondence between O'Keefe, maybe other Project Veritas people, and one of their attorneys. And the New York Times got this, and they were going to write about it. From the New York Times perspective, this shines right. They did write about it. Shines light on Project Veritas's shadier side. And Project Veritas is trying to say, well, this is privileged information, you can't publish this. And the judge unexpectedly and uncommonly sided with Project Veritas and has really strongly prohibited the New York Times from operating on any of this information it obtained.
Right, and then upheld his own ruling.
Right.
And the Times says it's going to appeal. It will be interesting to see how this goes, because if this stands, it's a massive blow to press freedom. And I think, so let's start with this. I think Project Veritas actually should be ashamed of itself for pushing this, because they and O'Keefe himself talk about themselves as journalists.
And they are what they do is expose information, or what they purport to do is
privilege,
is gather information without people's permission, conversations, secret surreptitious recordings, and expose that. That is self-admittedly what they do. Right. So for them to say that if it's done to them, that's beyond the pale is really hypocritical. I think, regardless of how what you think about this.
I don't agree politically with Project Veritas. I don't endorse a lot of the tactics that they use, but I have publicly defended their right under the First Amendment to do what they do. And when they dragged O'Keefe out of his, they raided his apartment, dragged him out, I defended him then. That is not how the government should treat any organization that is operating with protections around the First Amendment. Now, obviously, if there are some separate, unrelated shenanigans going on that has nothing to do with the publication of documents or videos, that's separate. That's not what's going on here. But as long as they're engaging within protected activities, everyone should defend them, whether or not you support them or not. Same with Julian Assange, no matter what you think of Julian Assange.
It's very akin to Assange. They published information or were going to or had the capacity to do from this diary, this Biden diary.
Chose not to. They may or may not have leaked it to this other outlet that published it,
but as long as they did not steal the diary, it is very akin to Assange publishing information that the government didn't want him to publish, but he is allowed to do, because we all have a First Amendment right to engage in journalism, to publish information that we came to, as long as we weren't involved in some kind of criminal action to gather it.
Right.
Which is exactly what he did.
And that's what's so important about the kind of uniquely American defense of the free press, because it's not intuitive, and it doesn't even feel right sometimes. Because if a journalist is given something that was stolen, let's say a diary was stolen from Ashley Biden and then given to Project Veritas, or given to the Intercept, given to Reason, doesn't matter. As long as the news outlet did not participate in the crime of stealing it, they are free, and they should be free to publish the material in that. The New York Times journalists, they obtained this information. It is up to them whether or not they publish this information. Julian Assange obtained, via Chelsea Manning, who did not have kind of legal access to the information in order to disclose it, but Julian Assange obtained it. It's his legal right in the First Amendment to publish it. That feels weird to a lot of people. A lot of people would love to say, no. That's classified, that's privileged, you can't publish that. And that is basically what the law is in most countries around the world.
Right.
And that's why it's so important to defend it here in the United States. The question will be, do we have enough of a culture of support of that? Or are people just so happy to own Julian Assange, own Project Veritas, and own the New York Times that everybody's owning each other and putting handcuffs on themselves in the process?
And by the way, I agree that attorney-client privilege is an important thing. And if there was some, criminal issue against Project Veritas and the state obtained this correspondence, they should not be able to use it. But that's the state. That's not the New York Times.
Right. And if a lawyer for the New York Times is found to have leaked it to a New York Times reporter, then there's a process that you can go through.
Right.
That says,
and they should not do that.
Right. You shouldn't do that.
Right.
Like there are rules around that, just like there are rules around leaking. But we also want to protect whistleblowers so that we don't want to criminalize people who blow the whistle. But that's a separate question, and it has to be a separate question than the publishing of that material, which always has to be protected. And the second it's not, then there is no press freedom anymore.
It should be. It's the journalist outlets' job. Now, I might disagree with their job. I don't know the specific. I'd have to see what they were actually planning to write. Maybe I would disagree with the judgment to publish this information, and maybe I would reach the conclusion. I have no idea if I would reach this conclusion. I might reach the conclusion that this is a hit job. They're mad because they're in litigation with this guy, and they don't want to be in litigation with this guy. But that the government cannot prohibit them. The government doesn't have editorial discretion.
Like with Project Veritas in October, they decided not to publish the Ashley Biden diary, not because they thought it was illegal, but because they thought it would blow back on them, that they would look like D-bags publishing somebody's private diary for political gain, like weeks while early voting.
They published all sorts
on.
of quote unquote undercover stings in cases that I thought were not legitimately newsworthy or were deceptive because the other person doesn't know that they're being recorded. So you always have to be careful when you're like recording or you're using deceptive practices to get information out of someone, because if you're being deceptive, well, the information they're giving you might also be deceptive. Like if if you're lying to me about, I might just be being friendly with you or just telling you what you want to hear for the sake of getting through this awkward conversation. It's not, if you're not identifying yourself as a journalist and saying this is for publication. Maybe I'm not telling you what I actually think. So that it has to factor into a little bit how we judge what comes out of it.
You're on the subway with somebody and they're like, don't you think Trump actually won that election? It was stolen. Like,
and I'll be like, let's go, Brandon, whatever, because I want to get through this conversation. And then you have me on video. Robby Soave of Rising said, let's go, Brandon. Well, I was just trying to get
Trump
through this.
Trump actually won the election.
But that is Project Veritas's judgment to whether to publish that. Absolutely, no question. But yes, the New York Times also enjoys that freedom, and this is a very, very suspect ruling.
Right, and so even if you hate the New York Times, you've got to stand up for this.
Yes, and boy do I. Boy do I. But you do sometimes, not all the time.
Yeah, a lot of it sucks.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's great.
Right.
You know?
So that's up to us to decide, and up to them to decide what to publish. So anyway, tomorrow on Rising, you may remember our coverage of the Biden administration's plan to force individuals released from federal prison due to COVID back behind bars. Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman will join us for new updates on that story.
And Jennifer Holsworth-Karp and Rachel Bovard will join us for Team Rising.
So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a video, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
See you then.
Take care.